Merhaba,
Hello
günaydın.
everyone. Good morning.
Müşteri hedefler için İş Dünyası platformu,
We are
hedeflerinizi
currently in our
tasarımı
platform
kooperatifi ve iş dünyası ve
with
sürdürülebilirliği
the business
paydaşlarını
life, and
tanıtmanızı
for some,
planlıyorum.
I'd like to welcome you all
Finlandiya Büyükelçiliği
from
ve Business
Finlandia Grand
Finland'ın
Embassy
stratejik
and Business
yönlendirmesi
Finland
eşliğinde
with the cooperation of
Türkiye
them.
Döngüsel Ekonomi Haftası'nın
Turkey,
üçüncü gününe hoş
we're at the third
geldiniz.
day of the Turkish
Üretimi
Circular Economy Week.
sürdürülebilirlikten yine döngüsel
From
ekonominin
first day
çok farklı
to
açıdan
this
üzerinde
day,
tartışmaya
we
devam
always
ediyoruz.
had discussions about the
Haftanın
circular
ilk bölümünde
economy. In the
döngüsel
first day of
ekonomi
it,
haftası vizyonunu konuşarak
we talk
başladık.
about the vision of this week.
Ardından Finlandiya'nın döngüsel
After
ekonomi
that,
yolculuğu üzerinden
we
iyi örnekler
take a look
paylaştık.
at the examples of the
Bugün
journey of
ikinci
the
bölümde
Finland on
ise
the circular economy.
ekonomi nasıl dönüşmeli sorusunu
After
yanıtlayacak
that,
ve özel
we
sektörde
answered the
dönüşüm
question about how
süreçleriyle
the society
programı
should be changed for
tamamlayacağız.
circular economy.
İkinci günümüzde
In our
Paris
second
İklim
day,
Antlaşması'nı
we talked about the
bölgeler nasıl
Paris Climate
karşılayacak
Agreement,
sorusunu
how,
küresel perspektiften
and we
bakarak
take a
yanıtladık.
look at the global perspective of
Türkiye'nin
how the
döngüsel ekonomi
regions
yol
adapting
haritası
to it.
tartışıldı.
Then we talked about the
Ardından
roadmap
döngüsel
of the
ortaklık
Turkey on the circular
konusunu
economy,
konuştuk.
and we also talked about the circular
Kaçırdığınız veya
economy.
tekrar izlemek
If
istediğiniz
you missed anything,
bölümlerde
or if you want to watch it
önümüzdeki
again,
oturumlarımızın
next
tamamı
week
ve
all of
katılımcı
our
olmak
panels
isteyen
and
kurumlarımızın web
sessions are
hesaplarından
organizers.
izleyebilirsiniz.
You can watch it from our
Hedeflerinizi
organizers YouTube
her
channels.
argüman
So
çözüm
now,
odaklı.
today,
Haftamızın üçüncü
16th
gününde
of March,
sürdürülebilirlik, döngüsel ekonomi ve teknolojiyi
sustainability and
baz alarak
circularity
kapsamlı bir
economy
açılım
and
sunuyoruz.
technology is important
İlk
for this
oturumda
day. First
sürdürülebilirlik,
panel
döngüsel ekonomi
is
ve
the
teknoloji inovasyonu
sustainability,
eşliğinde
innovation, and
ardından döngüsel ekonomi ve
circular,
teknoloji ilişkisi
circular
oturumunu
economies
dinleyeceksiniz.
relationship.
Günün ikinci yarısını endüstrinin
After
yeşil
we
teknolojiye
will talk
adaptasyonu
about the
konuşacağız.
industrialization adaptation
Son
to
tasarrufu
green
gerçekleştirip
machinery.
özel sektörden deneyimler
After that, we
sunmaya
shall have a
programı
share of
tamamlayacağız.
examples and
Forum bulunan
experiences
yazılımlarda simultane çeviri
from
yapılacaktır.
the
Her
private sectors.
katılım
There will be
kendi
simultaneous
ülkesinde
translation for all
sunacak
of the panels.
sunumlarını
I
konuşmacılarına
like to
ekranından izlemenizi
introduce and
istiyorum.
take it to stage the first
Sürdürülebilirlik,
speeches of
döngüsel
our
ekonomi
first
ve
panel.
teknoloji inovasyonu ilişkisi konusunu
The
konuşmacımız
relationship between sustainability, circular
Sektör
economy, and
Teknoloji
innovation.
Danışmanı ve bu oturumun
Project
yazarı
consultant
Ferda Ulutaş
from
eşliğinde
SDK
Esko
Turkey,
Enerji CEO'su
ESCO
Click
Energy
Innovation,
CEO,
Click Innovation Döngüsel
Click
Ekonomi
Innovation,
Müdürü Pirjo
and
Kaivos,
Sustainable Economy.
Business Finland Sürdürülebilir
Business
Üretim Programı
Finland
Direktörü
Director
Tony
of
Matila ile sohbet
Sustainable
ediyorum.
Economy.
Sözü Sayın Ulutaş işevine bırakıyorum.
I like to give word to the Ulutash, Mrs. Ulutash, the stage.
Günaydın, çok teşekkür
Good
ederim.
morning,
Değerli
thank you.
katılımcılarımız, teknoloji ve
Dear
inovasyon
participants,
konuşacağımız
we're
bugünkü
going to talk about
programa
the
hepiniz hoş
economy and
geldiniz.
innovations. Welcome everyone.
Hepinizi saygıyla
I'd like
selamlıyorum.
to
Faydalı
welcome you
ve verimli
all with my
oturumlar
respect and
diliyorum.
affection. I hope this will be a
Sesli
great panel for all of
değerli
us.
konuşmacımızla
We
birlikte
have really great
sürdürülebilirlik,
speakers
döngüsel
and
ekonomi
presenters
ve
here.
teknoloji
We're going to
inovasyon
talk about
konularını
the
değerlendirmeye
relationships
çalışacağız.
between the
Teknoloji
sustainable, circular,
inovasyonu
and innovative
sürdürülebilir kalkınma ve döngüsel
economies.
ekonominin yaygınlaşmasında
And with the
çok önemli bir role
circular
sahip
economy becoming more
konumlandı.
common, the technology
Döngüsel
has
ekonomi
played lots of
bir
pretty
dönüşüm
good, great roles.
ve bu dönüşümün teknoloji ve
And
inovasyon olmadan
this
gerçekleşemeyeceğini
kind of transition can't happen
ve
without the
bu
innovation in
yeni
technology. We know
dönüşümdeki
about that.
takas ve
With
döngüsel
the Europe
ekonomi
Union's
relasyonu ile
green
ilgili
and with the United
yaklaşımlarla ilgili olarak
Nations
görmek mümkün.
climate action plan,
Bu kapsamda Avrupa
there is
Birliği
no, we can say that it
araştırma,
could have been started
inovasyon ve
without that.
dijitalleşmenin
With
altını
that, Europe
özellikle
Union
çiziyor. Bu
underlines
programın
the innovation, sustainability, and circular
döngüsel
energy.
ekonomi bir mevzuat,
This
pazar, finansman
uh,
meselesi olduğu kadar aynı
and
zamanda
as
bir
the circular
teknoloji
economy
geliştirme
is a thought and
ve
topic
işe
about the
adaptasyon meselesi.
sector and the
Dolayısıyla
market, but
tasarımdan
it's
üretime,
also a
testlere,
topic of technology.
malzemeden, değer zincirlerinden
And we talked about
azaltmaya
the
ve
value
istihdamlar
chains
yaratmaya
and of
kadar
course to
sürdürülebilir
lessons of waste and also
işlemler
usage
noktasında
of waste
ilgili
in
tüm iş
better ways is
kollarının
really important.
teknoloji ve inovasyona ihtiyaç var.
And for all of this, we need technology and innovations.
Tabii ki söz konusu.
And of course, there is lots of
Dikkatli
developments on that
dinleyeceklerinizi
part is really here.
istiyorum.
I like to return back to our
Yanımızda
speakers
ESCO
today.
Enerji Genel
We
Müdürü
have the
ve
CEO of ESCO from
Finland
Onurunu,
Innovation Dönüşsel
from
Ekonomi
Click
Lideri
Finland,
Pirjo
Pirjo
Kaivos ve
Kaivos,
bizim
esteemed Pirjo
sunumunda
Kaivos, and
Sürdürülebilir Üretim
esteemed Tony
Programı'nın
Matila,
direktörü Sayın
the
Tony
director
Matila
about
bulunuyor.
the circular
İlk
economy.
olarak sözü Sayın Pirjo
I like to
Kaivos'a
give the
vermek
word to the
istiyorum.
Pirjo Kaivos.
Kendisi
She
özellikle
is
biyoekonomi, döngüsel
for
ekonomi ve
bioeconomy
enerji
and
alanında açık
circularity
inovasyon
was talking about the open innovation. Is working for clinic innovation, strategy, responsible strategic part of it. Has done lots of work for environment management and has worked for lots of companies as upper management. Yes, Mrs. Kayvos. What can you say about the innovation in the circular economy? Can you give us your experiences and your opinions, please?
Thank you. I hope you see my presentation now. I have put in the presentation mode. Okay. Good morning and very sunny morning here from Helsinki, Finland. And today I'm going to tell you about how we in Click Innovation facilitate innovations on sustainability and circular economy. First, a few words about who we Good morning, everybody, and sorry about the mess. Today I'm going to tell you about how we in Click Innovation facilitate innovations and on sustainability and circular economy. And first, few words about who we are in Click Innovation. We are owned by leading international companies and Finnish research organizations who are committed to create sustainable solutions for the world. We in Click Innovation, we create additional value to our partners by building and coordinating and managing research, development, innovation, collaboration. And we work in a cross-sectoral challenges. And as you know, new innovations often emerge at the intersections of different industrial sectors. So we have a good possibility with our shareholders to facilitate and new solutions and innovations in sustainability and circular economy. Here you can, next slide, you may see our shareholders and partners. They are big international companies representing pulp and paper industry, energy industry, recycling industry, and also technology industry. And what we offer to our shareholders, this is our basic service portfolio. We are offering RGA strategy services, we have foresight services, we formulate with our shareholders strategic research and innovation agendas, which are on background when we develop new ideas and actions and projects. We also have new ideas services, challenge camps, startup SME events, but our core is more or less to build together with our shareholders, companies, and research institutes projects in this sustainability area, in energy, circular economy, and bioeconomy. And we are writing project applications for our partners. We support consortia agreements, and we are also very happy to coordinate these projects if they get funding. We are a non-profit company, and we get our money from our shareholders and also from public innovation funds. For example, Business Finland is very, very important partner for us in different projects. And here are our 3 or 4 thematic groups, our focus areas. They are bioeconomy, and then the circular economy that I am representing. In this area, our key actions at the moment are the circular economy of plastics, circular economy of water, and then also we are focusing on metals and other inorganic. The third team is energy systems, and last year the new theme, urban environmental solutions and monitoring, started. And here is, I told about the strategic research and innovation agendas that we built for every of these 3 or 4 areas. And this is an example what are important issues for our shareholders in circular economy. The streams, they think important that plastics, nutrient cycles, valuables in inorganic streams, and also carbon recycling. And you see the vertical lines in every project. Digitalization and data management is very key issue. Also, how we get added value from combined different material streams. This is also important. And of course, water and energy efficiency, and as you know, the regulatory environment is very challenging, and we also pay attention to that in our projects. We are also active in international cooperation and partner of different partnerships and projects in EU, and for example, Horizon project. And in circular economy, we have just be a member of new European partnership called Process for Planets. This is to influence on the topics of future EU financing for circular economy and material and energy efficiency. But if we go, then I like to focus on one area which is now important for us and our companies is the plastic issue, and how we tackle the plastic challenge through our ecosystems and projects in KIC innovation. So I have some examples of that. 2 years ago, we established an ecosystem called For Recycling Ecosystem. This is also financed by Business Finland. In this ecosystem, we create a common vision and roadmap to tackle the challenges and to capture the opportunities in plastics recycling and bio-based material business. In this ecosystem, we also facilitate cross-sectoral and cooperation, and we identify what are the knowledge gaps in this plastics area and try to fill the gaps with different projects and actions. We also connect with selected international actors and collaborators in this area. And this ecosystem has the strategic basis. As I told you, in every our focus areas, we have these research and innovation agendas. That these agendas are actually a voice of our shareholders. What do they think should be done in circular economy, and in this case, in also in bioeconomy to have other non-plastics materials to substitute the plastics. The area is huge, this plastics area, and we had to focus on certain areas. And this ecosystem and the ecosystem players, they have their idea is that we focus on these four, we call it spearheads. One first is the functional bio-based packages, packaging in grocery trade. Also the technology issues, recycling technology issues are important. Further, plastics and composites in construction industry, and the fourth spearhead is recycling of bulky fiber reinforced plastics products. Here is an example how this ecosystem has grown. There is the key companies, the steering group, the supporting companies, different kind of national and international projects. And of course, there are lots of companies besides these that are part of this ecosystem. And we have now worked 2 years with this issue, and we hope we can continue, because to build and grow this kind of ecosystem, this is not an easy job. It takes time, but I think we are in a good direction in this. Then one concrete example of a project this ecosystem has then started. First action actually of this for recycling ecosystem is a project called All In for Plastics Recycling, Class In. And you all know that this plastic issue is very current at the moment. In Europe, around 27 million tons of consumer plastic waste is generated annually, and only 1/3 of it is collected for recycling. And very big amount of plastics end up in the seas, as you probably know. There are many environmental concerns in this area. Regulation is tightening, and I think there is a vast need for improvement and also potential for new business. And from this justification, the companies thought that research and development is needed, especially for challenging plastic materials to improve the recyclability of the plastic. This project was started 2 years ago. This is also Business Finland funded co-innovation project. The objective is to help the plastic industry actors to develop systemic and environmentally optimized recycling concepts. And we are focusing on difficult plastics to recycle and try to turn the challenges into new business opportunities. Here you can see the partners. We have co-partners in this consortium that have their own parallel projects. Then we have a public project and led by leading research partners, and also collaborative partners who will bring financing and expert to this consortium. And what we do in this project have done, we have two key areas, which are market system and shaping, recycling tomorrow, and recycling of challenging plastic fractions. In this market system and shaping, we are focusing on assessing future recovered plastic waste and flows, and also consider the foreseeable changes in packaging. And we are studying how environmentally optimized system for scalable plastic recycling could be designed. In this recycling tomorrow, this team provides the necessary information on the economically and environmentally optimized collection and pre-treatment concept systems and technologies. The third theme is recycling of challenging plastics, where we are concentrating to liquid board, packaging board plastics and B plastics with waste electrical and electronic equipment. And the project will end in spring, and we are just considering what to do after that, but maybe a few results of this project. And there are a lot of results. I will concentrate to this market system and shaping, and what kind of the idea of this project is to give the companies the background information and research results, so that companies can then to make new solutions and new products and actions in this area. But if you look at the results on this market system and shaping, we studied market flows, quantities and qualities about the plastics, sustainability of the waste system, consumer behavior and attitudes, and also the regulatory environment. And these are the first results we have got, and we studied the most used polymers. Packaging waste generated in Finnish households will be increasing by 2030, and the packaging are getting lighter and thinner, and it's driven in increasing extent by sustainability. And the current climate impacts of plastic waste systems were also studied, and the various changes, like when increasing recycling capacity, recycling yield, increased collection, and chemical recycling. And the result was that combination is the most efficient. If we implement all these changes, we get a very big reduction in climate impacts. And further, there was made an interview among consumers, and consumer preferences for recycling plastics are very positive in Finland. Consumers are satisfied, but they think that there should be more products available from recycling plastics, and more attention should pay on availability, labeling and information of recycled plastic. And the regulatory environment also was studied, and this is rapidly changing and creating some uncertainty and making it less attractive targets for investing. But they were the first results, and this was very short glance what we do in big innovation to facilitate innovation, sustainability, and circular economy. So thank you very much.
Evet, çok teşekkürler.
Thank you.
Gerçekten
It was a really interesting presentation for circular economy, for innovation, creating an ecosystem and creating a collaboration work is really important. And your works on that was really great. And for the plastic, especially, your special works for plastic is really important. Now I'd like to return to Mr. Tony Motila, as I said before, from Business Finland Sustainability Manufacturer Director, and of course from Industries and Ecological Change, and for the new places to get bigger for sustainable and sustainable economy, working on that part. Mr. Tony Matila, for sustainable manufacturer, why do we need it? What kind of developing areas is needed? What kind of innovation is needed? Can we hear from you?
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear and see me well. Can you see me and hear?
Evet, her şey yolunda, devam edebilirsiniz.
Thank you.
Everything is okay, you can continue.
Thank you. So, I come from Business Finland, which is a Finnish innovation, trade and investment promotion agency. And we establish programs on certain business areas, either to create totally new business or support some certain business areas that are important for national economy, or to transform existing business sectors. And this is our effort now to transform the manufacturing industry. And we are primarily seeking to transform the industry from two perspectives. Firstly, on one hand, the word sustainability for us means economical sustainability. So we in Finnish manufacturing is in continuous pressure to remain internationally competitive in our high cost environments. So productivity and these kind of efficiencies are one focus, but the other one is obviously the ecological sustainability, which I'm going to focus on this talk now. I often start by pointing out the report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. As many of you know, this is a body under the United Nations, and it's more than 100. It includes more than 200 international climate scientists, and they publish reports periodically. And this is an extract from the report published last year. And this, I want to show this to point out the urgency of the change. The graph on the top right shows the average temperature on Earth and how much it has risen over the past couple of decades. And this is very important to realize that we are way beyond that conversation, whether this observed rise in temperature is within normal fluctuation of average temperatures on a globe. It's way beyond that already. So in certain sense, we are late already, but there is still things that we can do to prevent the rise in temperature at the same rate as it has done in the past. Second point, a very important point, is that who is to blame? This bottom graph here shows simulated environmental impact in terms of raising temperature with the human influence and without the human influence. And this study very strongly indicates that humans being here on the Earth has a significant influence in this temperature rise and this climate change. And this really calls an urgent action for us to do something. And obviously, if we are talking about our well-being, that the point where that average temperature started to rise was when our well-being started to rise, and that's around the industrialization. But the obvious goal is to detach our development of well-being from the environmental impact. And that's why we are talking about the ecological efficiency in the future growth of well-being. Obviously, this climate change and how to tackle that is a society-wide matter, and we have to approach that in various fronts. But industries is obviously a significant, industries have a significant part to play in this. But what can industries do in order to take their fair share in this battle? That is in the core of our program, and this is what we are stimulating Finnish industries to find solutions to these challenges. And obviously, we are talking about primarily those industries that cause direct emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, primarily the CO2 emissions. And those are, at least in Finland, the biggest contributors in that. It's also quite the same situation in other countries. They are steel industry, cement industry, and chemical industry. And situation is very challenging, since these are very important materials in societies. They are steel and cement are construction materials, and in many cases we don't have viable alternatives at the moment. So we cannot just stop using them. We need to invest into development of these processes to transform them to get rid of the direct emissions. There are good candidates, for example, to steel industry, how to transform that process completely to reduce the CO2 emissions, but they are still at the laboratory scale. we need to be able to scale up then into an industrial scale in order to have a meaningful impact. But these are the investments that we have to do today and start doing right now. Another impact, if we look at the global greenhouse gas emissions in total, and this is data from Oxford University, I believe it was, who collects this data. But it's available here in our world in data. You can see that the direct emissions from industry are not that considerable. They are about 5%. But if you look what are the secondary sources of emissions for industry, they are here on the energy side, and they are as large as 25% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. So at the end of the day, through the use of energy, industry is a very significant contributor to the greenhouse gas emissions. And this energy side is very important second focus point. And obviously the challenge here to industries is how for industries, it's a choice to use coal-powered energy or green energy. And okay, if it's a choice for energy, it's not that simple, since the demand for energy in industry is typically very large. It's large and stable, whereas the production of green energies, particularly wind and solar, it changes with the weather conditions. So there is a challenge of how to couple this large and constant demand with varying green energy production. So therefore we need to, for example, solutions like power to X, these are very important development targets, because we need to be able to store that energy for a brief periods of time, so that we can supply the energy to industries at the constant rate that they need it. But at the same time, industries need to also find ways to be more energy efficient. Either produce the same amount of output with the lower energy efficiency, or more importantly, achieve the growth that is necessary without increasing the energy usage. So this is a second very important point. And the third one is what I would call a material efficiency. And so industries need to find ways to not to get rid of the use of waste entirely. All the materials and that they use in their products should not produce waste of any kind. If there is something that they cannot use in their production, it should have a secondary user, like somebody uses it as a raw material. But also not only the efficiencies in operations, also industries need to look into what they get inside their facility doors or production plants. I mean, whether these materials, raw materials in particular, whether they are virgin materials or circulated materials, and we need to put emphasis on increasing the amount of circulated materials. And likewise, on the other end, what goes in outside of the facilities. First of all, that whatever goes into operation, these products need to be energy efficient. Plus, then once they reach the end of their life cycle, they need to be designed, or quite often redesigned, so that the materials in them can be circulated. So this linear value chain can be bent into the circular form, so that we achieve this circular economy in the industries. That is a challenge that need to be approach from many perspectives, from the design of the product, from the use of materials, as well as then how these manufacturing processes, production processes can manage these circulated materials. It's a very multifaceted challenge, but it's something that needs to be done in order to achieve these goals. a brief note. I'm not going to go now into many details due to the time constraints, but what is the role of smart manufacturing and digitalization in manufacturing? This is quite often I see that we do that connection a bit hastily by saying that digital production, automated production is obviously a sustainable. But there are some pitfalls that we may fall into, particularly if we think, for example, of computer vision that is quite often used in the modern smart manufacturing application. It is very power-intensive calculations that are done. You can imagine that a camera produces from 60 to 100 images per second. And all of those need to be analyzed for whatever it is used, quality inspection or something. It requires tremendous amount of computational power. And there is a very big certainty that the energy consumption in industries will increase significantly. There's one alarming example is the use of the widespread use of blockchain technology, particularly the Bitcoin, which uses so tremendously. It's insane the amount of energy that goes into maintaining that system. It's simply unsustainable. So we have to make sure that with our adoption of digitalization, we avoid those pitfalls. But it's not only also the energy consumption, but it's also a matter of looking of what do we replace. This new adaptation of new technology has a footprint, carbon footprint, but whether the question is whether it's smaller or larger than what is the footprint of the existing process. So those are the two pitfalls that we may fall into when we do investments into new technology. We may not end up in a more sustainable path if we don't do them wise. That's just a word of caution. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to find solutions, but also not only find solutions for ourselves, but help to spread out the new technologies, new business models that arise in this framework. And this is why we have here in Finland developed a new term to complement the use of carbon footprint. We talk about carbon handprint. Carbon footprint is what company, the existence of company has on the environment. But the carbon handprint is the helping hand that some company can give to another company in their objectives to reduce their own carbon footprint. For example, a company that provides solutions to replace fossil fuel powered machines, let's say forklifts in storage warehouses. If they provide technology to transform that into electric ones, they have a significant carbon handprint in their production. And this is the kind of thinking that makes quite many to realize that actually there is a business potential also in this transformation. It's not only a cost that in order to make our business more environmentally friendly, it means cost to us. No, we have an opportunity to make good, sustainable business, economical sustainable business out of it. But this, thank you for your attention. This was everything I wanted to point out and highlight. And over to you, Ferda.
Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you, Mr. Matila. It was a really interesting presentation, especially about the material efficiency, and of course the energy efficiency topic was really important. And it was talking about the dissertation as an in-task at this topic, this agenda. And for the efficiency, we have to take a look at it for efficiency, and you pointed that out. It was a really interesting point. Thank you. I think from here, I'd like to go to our last presenter from ESCO, Mr. Onur Ünlü. Onur Ünlü who has created the first consultancy for energy and co-founder of it for lots of work, has been doing energy engineering, energy trainings, and energy education, has been working on that part. Has experiences also. And for EO, they're directors of the collective. And for Green Transition Commission's director, Mr. Onur Ünlü. For green transition and green economy usage and green machinery usage, what can you talk about that? Can you give your experiences and your ideas on that part? If you can share it with us, we will really like it. Thank you, Mrs. Ferda. I hope that it will be a great day for all of us. I hope you can see my presentation. It was a really great flow. There was 2 or 3 things that Mr. Tony has talked about. It was really important. I will talk about energy efficiency. We are in a new world. There's a new ecosystem that has been building up, a new world to be built upon. The empty prices and the imbalances on its supply affect us really, really hard. And it also affects the shipment prices. The costs are increased, the ship numbers are get decreased, and of course the demand and supply changed. Of course, money is really a lot. But if there is no money, it's a problem. If there's lots of money, that's a problem too. Energy prices with the invasion of Russian forces to Ukraine, it become maximum. As you all know, global economy is really had a problem because in China there's no pandemic cases are being seen. So it puts our mind in a question that will it start again? Of course, working on environmental work is really important, and climate change and tackling the climate change mindset like this is getting more common. What the developments can be happen our did we talked about our emissions will get lower if in the during the pandemic era, because we always do our littering and our pollution as United Nations climate change visuals that has been published by them. Dramatization comes here. We talk about global warming. Do we still 2.2? It always puts where it is. When we talk about 5.5 and talk 2, even it's a half degree difference. The melting of ices becomes from 30% to 60%, and losing half of their parts, it is nearly becomes doubles. This is all dramatic and catastrophic changes. We can see we've seen a little winter here, but for a country like us has 4 seasons, we had a real problem with droughts, as we said, and of course with the forest fires that have really hurt us from our heart in the last summer. This kind of forest fires can increase, and there is a EO executive director's warning. The world, the governments, investors, companies, everyone has to be put a laser like focus. It's a really critical thing. If, as we are seeing COP26. If it is not now, when it is? We have to stop the climate change, and for that, countries had agreements together with it continued with the Paris Agreement, and we signed in recent times. In the last part, it was European Union Green Action. Our goals become better to work for less, to make it less global temperature rise. It's really important. lots of actions has been taken. After countries start to put goals, Europe Union said that they will have in 2050 they will be the net zero continent. We said that we will try our best for net zero in 2053. Why are we doing this? Because world is currently a dramatic change. This climate change is not about just environmental impact, also affects us as economics. If there is an increase in if there is a 2 degrees increase, it means that the world economy shall decrease for 4.2%. For Asia economy, it decreased minus 5.5. What are our goals? The goals that has been given by the Europe action plan. The for 2030 carbon emissions to be decreased for 55%, and in 2050 zero emission carbon emissions is really important. We talked about renewable energy. The roadmaps is the renewable energy when everything is going on. We are in a world with population increase and with a more economic, where the planet that needs more economy, needs more jobs, needs more manufacturing, needs more energy. We are working on that part, and it's not exactly easy problem. Our first fuel for this tackling against the climate change is the energy efficiency, as the International Energy EAI has given. We can see that it can easily be seen in the graphic here. From industry to buildings and transport, you can see the need for energy transformation, energy efficiency. Why it's important? Let's take a look at this. For that transition, the energy investment is currently 2 trillion of US dollars, should be become 5 trillions of USD dollars. And house investments are currently for 214 billions of USA dollars, and it should be 300 billions of USA dollars. And for EPS and ESCO, for currently 30 billions of USD dollars, but it should be become 200 billions of dollars. When we come to the energy efficiency, how it became started, because there is a shortage of resources, and to best be coefficient and be competitive. And of course, second is this for the environment, being environmental friendly. It is not something like let's go become more efficient tomorrow. It is not something like that. You have to be, it has a process, and it's a process that you can't skip any steps. Even if we are just brushing our teeth and closing the water when we're brushing, is just this kind of efficiencies and savings are important. It starts with that energy saving. Then after that, it comes energy efficiency. Because of its energy's nature, it needs investment. More efficient equipment should be used, and that's why investment is really important. After you finish the 2 stages, renewable energy comes to the stage. Right now, one of the most popular and common things is the solar panels that has been used for homes, and some factories use it too. Do I, if I'm talking about, if I did my consuming less with my energy savings and energy efficiency, I don't have to use the excessive amount of resources. So that's why the steps and the order of it is really important. The industry's importance, and Turkey has get their needs for energy from foreign countries, the 65% of it coming from the foreign countries. We are doing lots of consuming. Why the industry is important? It has a consumption of constant and high energy, and of course the constant consuming. So there's and of course there is the accessibility easiness for the material opportunities, and of course the employment of qualified personnel. This kind of projects getting more valued and make put it down action. Qualified person always play a role, and this is the most important sector on that part. When we take a look at the Turkey about the saving opportunities, there's we can see a saving potential of 8% to 44%, and annual annual annual average margin is that income is at 7 millions of USD dollars can be seen. When we take a look at the last research we have done, I'm going to talk about that one. When we take a look at the 354 industries and 25 to 41 factories, in this 300 factories is 41% is from the secondary 500 biggest in foundation, and the other 137 is from the first biggest of the industrialized foundation. We have lots of, you can see we have 45, we watched them 45 cities and 13 different sectors. As you can see from here about the energy efficiency potential, we have a saving potential of 17.2% for plastic. To create and increase our we need to do investment of 3.84844,000, and it will be repaid in 2.25 years. You can see lots of course, you can see lots of saving and efficiency potentials, but most of them for the return payments are incoming in 3 to 2 years. It's really important. When you put the efficiency project come to life, when you look at the micro scale about the business, because most businesses are done for profit margins, but for macro scale for our country, because we do lots of export about the energy, it helps us to lessen the imports we are getting from the other countries. We need, of course, lots of, we can have, when we take a look at the global scale about the environment, it really strengthen our hand on the tackling for the climate change. We have 3 categories for this project. This quickly win project, and after that the basic saving projects systems like waste heating, and of course there is the big profit projects, cooling system change or compressor system change. This kind of change can help. You can think about that. When we take a look at the systemical analysis, when we come to the alt topic, we come to the industrial systems, we take a look at the cooling groups. In 120 companies you have seen, there's 360 cooling group. There is a nearly maximum potential is nearly 75%. If you were a seller guy, a salesman person, you wouldn't be the persons would not believe you, but there's lots of potentials you can see from here. This we have to take this potential level to upper level. We have to take a look at the efficiency increasing project, and when the technology is getting more developing, with the heating pumps, we can create steams with the 1 trillion Turkish liras. We can see 4 years after 4 years there is a repayment. We can see here that this kinda we don't even have to talk about the project that has the quick repayment. Why it doesn't come to force? We have two blocks. First is the integrity of the project and believability of the project. It is too good to be true. Savings can be seen, or because of there was lots of bad experiences that happened before. Because of that, they won't they won't take the risk again. And the second main block is the finance need. Sometimes the project manager don't have the resource, they has a short of resource, or can't leave the levels that the upper management has given. This has been seen from the international study. As we can see, postponing cost is more bigger and costlier than the financing cost. Postponing decision is meaning that we will polluting and littering the environment, and also using excessive amount of money. First, if we are going to use our own sources, we need to get help from the current government. The energy and other sources ministry does help with the project that has done 5 millions of investment. If you in the coming 3 years, if you can decrease for 10%, you will get help for 1 year, $1 million, 9 million of Turkish liras.
Kısmını devlet
You
destekliyor.
can see the government lots of help. Let's take a look at we have to take a look at the energy efficiency agreements. An external foundation like a ESCO, they gave financial aid for the project. For there is no risk for the business owner, and of course it gives performance and comfort conditions, and of course energy savings are developed. So if there's something problem happened, energy service companies are the only place that can be damaged for that part. It could be a risk management or financial institution or just a company that gives energy supplies. Mostly important is critical system, how the structure works. There is a cost for energy. There is, of course, investment for this project. Of course, the earning of customer and for the energy service company. We have to look at the process. There's a pre-study about opportunities. They will agreement happens. Then there will be a study about the investment focus. After that, designing and project making. After that, another agreement. Then project management and application. And most technical part is the validation and scaling of the equipment that has been used. We don't have to stop. We have to start acting today. We don't have to. We have to use everything we have. Thank you for listening to me.
Evet, biz de çok teşekkür
We
ederiz.
really thank you.
Oldukça somut
It was really great,
uygulamalarla ilgili.
solid
Sayın
with
Tübe,
your applications.
bir şekilde
I think
bugün
what happened
teknoloji,
to
inovasyon
my
konuştuk.
taken my attention. We are talking about technological innovation, but for energy efficiency, but and for circular economy. We have talked about the innovation of financial models. And with the stage is yours, Mr. Onur. For finance models, this kind of different applications or agreements, how does it been seen? Can it find any implementations? Or were there any shortcomings? If you have any knowledge about that part, of course. When we take it the past times, there was lots of shortcomings. A company comes to you, don't do anything, I will give the money. They say that investors think that they will take a look at the if is there something that I'm not seeing here? What is he going to do? Is he the Santa Claus just giving me presents? But in 2020, with the with the decree of republics, with the presidential, with the public institutes can demand this, it become a subject for the public. When it was talked about, this method is really great, it is really correct. When we take a look at this, especially for the private sector, lots of behavioral part and approaches has been beginning and it has been increasing. I have lots of representatives for private sectors, and of course foreign and local companies numbers are increasing. And for energy performance agreement is important. Thank you. There's a question for Mrs. Kayvos. It is a really interesting question. For big companies, when for the approach of open innovation for bioplastic startups, how can they get together with the circular economies?
And the big companies get together. Yes, actually, they are not competitors, and I think they have a common target. They can get together and create new solutions that are beyond one company. And they also, we are not alone. We are working ecosystems and value chains, and then there are very many requirements, and the requirements are moving along the ecosystem and value chains and affecting every company in the world. So I think the cooperation is vital, and also adapting sustainable solutions and circular economy. I think it's a vital thing. Business and we are not strong enough alone, but doing cooperation, also big companies.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of our time. If there's any chance, I want to ask another question. I got the information. There's a question from Mr. Matila. For the digitalization subject, it is really important, as you have said. I, especially for this digitalization, for sustainable manufacturing, and for sustainable economies space in Finland or in Europe, how there's a fast transition, how kind of fast integration shall happen? If you can give an answer, if you can give your experience on that part, we will be really happy.
What's the question of how fast the transformation can be? Yes, that is a challenge in the sense that we have been talking about the Industry 4.0 and this new revolution in the productivity of industries for decades, more than 10 years already. But it's clearly, we see that companies are not utilizing these opportunities that there are available for them. But perhaps the answer to your question is that we are not at the pace where we should be, or we would want to be. And it's a little bit of chicken and the egg thing. We do have solutions available, commercially available, but maybe they don't, they are still seen by the industry, by the customers of these solutions. They see that they are not comprehensive enough, not transformative enough, so that they don't make, at the moment, they are not very keen on investing. They are waiting for the next model, the next solution. Maybe that provides even a bigger jump. So that is something that's not necessarily a concern for big companies. Big companies, they develop their solutions for themselves. But I'm more talking about now for SMEs. And that's a particular challenge that we have noticed, and now paying particular attention to fasten that development. We need to take particularly the SMEs on board with this productivity transformation. But how long? I believe it's just a matter of time. We have so many fronts in the field of automation, utilization of data. All these kinds of possibilities at our fingertips. It's just a matter of that we start using them. So the development, we have a good chance to be fast over the next 5 to 10 years, much faster than we have been in the past.
Tamam. O zaman hepimizin
Thank you. I think we can see that we have lots of to do. I'd like to thank all of you for your speeches and your presentations, for your valuable information that you share with us. I hope that it will be efficient for all of us. Thank you. Goodbye.
Çok teşekkür ederiz. Sayın Ünlü,
Thank you.
Sayın Carlos,
Mr.
Sayın
Carlos, Miss Ünlü, and Mrs. Matilo, like thank you for your great contributions.
Bir sonraki oturumumuz
Our other session will start at 11 past half. We shall see you after a break.
Sırada günün ikinci
Next,
oturumu var.
we have the second session.
Döngüsel ekonomi ve
Our
etkisi olacak.
topic is the relationship between the circular economy and about the technology
Sabancı Üniversitesi öğretim
from
üyesi
an
Özge
educator, Özge Akbulut from Sabancı University,
Esra
a co-founder global
Orçun, Bio2X
from,
teknoloji uzmanı
from Biotics
MIT
technology specialist
Metse Grup iklim ve
and from
dönüşüm
Mexico
politikaları
group
sorumlu
about
başkan
the
yardımcısı Maya
deputy
Bozdoğan'ı
president
ekrana davet ediyorum. Sözü
with
Sayın
the
Saskia.
stage. I'd like to give the stage to Mr. Civan. Today we have with us the great names here, and our topic is the circular economy and its relationship with technology. We have lots of great names from Turkey and Finland. We will talk about the relationship about the technology, and we'll handle with the finance. First of all, I want to start with Mrs. Özge to enter the topic. Of course, the relationship with the circular economy technologies always in our lives. And with Mrs. Özge, and I am a graduate from Sabancı University. I always follow up on your work and studies. You have really, for industrial sectors, you have great solutions for. And if you return back to it, when we take a look at the circular technology, in that area, in this new world, new planet, these new technologies, new trends, what are they? What are going to be more important? Can you give your and share us with your experiences and information?
Thanks, Johan. It is always great to see Sabancı University students all over dominating the field. It's great. And hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. And also this panel, like, you know, whenever they ask me questions about like the circular economy, I would like to underline the importance of materials, material selection in product design and related subjects. Because we are at a stage in the technology such that we have to think alternatives and we have to really devise the processing methods in order to deliver those alternatives. So more specifically, like the way that I do it, like in my research areas, I have picked up a notorious sector, which is the ceramics industry. Like, you know, a bit of technology here, like the processing temperatures are reaching 1400s. All this energy is being spent onto ceramic materials. And then unfortunately, we have like 15 to 35% losses in this sector. So what I do as research is to attack this sector and then really attain a transformation to circular economy. So these technologies in terms of delivering the necessities of the current world really starts from the materials level, if you asked me, but of course I am very biased. So now, like, I would like to finish this, like, because we have like so many, you know, valuable people here. I would like to say we really have to look at more closely to the materials, and I will elaborate on the subject, I think, throughout the talk as well. But I will be flagshipping the materials here. Thank you.
Thank you. For materials in the coming time, we will expecting your speech on that part. It is a really different experience for us. As for technology, it is also seen as another innovation. And for Mesa Group, and from here, I'd like to give the word to Maija. In the circular economy, has a really great contribution as a group, and for humanity and for world to be has a better vision. They are working on that and try to give contribution for their part. And I want to talk about the green technologies and the applications of it. What are being done and what are the major group work on that. I'd like to give the speech to the Maya and I'd like to hear her opinions on that part.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for this opportunity to share some views on circular economy, especially circular economy of wood, and give some examples from Metsä Group. and greetings from Finland to everybody. I could actually share my screen. I prepared some slides. So while I'm answering my question, so I'll start the slide. So yeah, so really it's great to be here, and great that you have organized this very important event focused on circular economy. So my name is Maija Pohjakallio, and I come from Metsä Group. And Metsä Group is a big forest sector company based in Finland. And our annual sales is about 6 billion euros. What makes us unique is that our parent company, Metsäliitto Cooperative, is owned by 100,000 Finnish forest owners. And this means that we have kind of a long-term approach in bringing sustainable added value to wood raw material. We have 5 business areas under the same umbrella. You can see here some 5 boxes, and they stand for Metsä Wood, and Metsä Forest, Metsä Fiber, Metsä Board, and Metsä Tissue. And Metsä Forest is responsible for our wood sourcing and forest management supplies services. Metsä Wood produces wood products, such as wood products for construction. Metsä Fibers main products are pulp and sawn timber. Metsä Board produces paperboard, especially for packaging, and Metsä Tissue produces tissue and greaseproof papers. In addition, we also have an innovation company, Metsä Spring, which, for example, invests in small startup companies. Altogether, we are about a bit over 9,000 people at Metsä Group. All our production is in Europe, mainly in Finland, Sweden, Germany, Poland. But we have sales offices all around the world, and also we have a sales office in Turkey. What then is important for us when creating more sustainable and circular business models? For us, we think that our raw material, renewable wood, is circular by nature. So everything in our business starts from sustainably managed forests. We always know the origin of our raw material, and it's very important for us to ensure that the forest from which our wood is sourced from, they grow more than they are harvested, and to also safeguard the biodiversity. Other things very important to us are that we have clear action plans and investments ongoing towards a more sustainable future. And a third pillar in creating more circular business models for us is partnerships. So we really think that we need partners, and together we can make the difference and make the world more sustainable. I'll share you some examples. As I said, the forest management practices are very, very important to us, and both safeguarding the growth of the trees, always when the forest is harvested, new trees are planted, and also taking care of the biodiversity. And in Finland, actually more than 70% of our land area is covered by forests. So for a long time ago, we have also had kind of some actions required by the law that you have to do regarding forest management. But additionally, we have a lot of voluntary certifications and also voluntary actions within our company. And I don't know if you knew, but during the past 40 years, actually the amount of wood in Finnish forest has increased by 40%. And this is not any gut feeling. This is a fact, as we are very good in monitoring the forests. Already more than by 100 years, we have been monitoring and making statistics out of the forests. So we really gather a lot of data of the forest and how they develop, and to safeguard the amount of food and also biodiversity. Additionally, on a company level, we have these voluntary programs. We have an ecological sustainability program and also nature management program, which ensure that when we use wood, we do it in a sustainable way. And we also, this is a very new program, this nature management program, and it's actually targets the non-commercial forests. So we also want to contribute to safeguarding biodiversity, not only in commercial forests, but also in other forests in Finland. And in all we do, we want to respect the 3 principles of circular economy. This one is a quotation from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and they say that we have to regenerate natural systems, and those small examples I showed are examples how we do actions to regenerate natural systems. Then we want to design out waste and pollution, and also keep products and materials in use and maintain their value as long as possible. And I just showed you examples of the raw material side. Of course, that's not enough. We also need to use the wood in a very resource-wise and resource-effective way. So all the production we have has to be resource efficient and with least amount of emissions as possible. And for us, as we have these 5 different business areas under the same umbrella, it's very important that we make use of the synergies between the actors under our own umbrella. And also we have a lot of partners together, for example, who take care of our side streams and refine them into a valuable products. For example, here you can see that the circle and all the bolded products, they are produced from our own company, Metsä Group, but then the non-bolded products, they are produced by our partners. And another very key feature in this slide is that you see here the figure of the tree. So whenever we harvest a tree, all the parts of the trees are used in a smart way. So the logs, those ones we utilize for sawn timber, plywood, so for construction elements into products that store the carbon for a long time, and that's the most valuable part of the wood and trees. But naturally, you cannot grow trees that are only like logs. You have the rest of the wood as well, and the rest of the wood we use. A part of it goes into pulp wood for pulping and other bioproducts, and then bark, branches, and top for renewable energy. So it's important for us to optimize the use of the wood raw material on a very holistic and systemic way. In 2017, our bioproduct mill at Äänekoski in the center of Finland started to operate. And this is a unique ecosystem. You can see the photograph and something of its working principles. The main product of this ecosystem is pulp. But then the idea is that on the same site, we have other companies as well who utilize the side streams and produce other kinds of products. And then we also have companies on the same site, for example, who use the pulp, for example, for making paperboard. And again, the idea is to utilize the synergies and then optimize things on a systemic level to really get more out of less. From some of the side streams, we produce renewable energy. And here you can see that we are quite a significant producer of renewable energy on the whole national Finnish level. There is, for example, a very important case in this picture is that we are also producing, for example, biomethanol at the moment within the ecosystem. And then we have a partner called Veolia. They are planning to invest in a purification plant, and then they could upgrade the biomethanol to be used as a transport fuel or in other chemical products. But very many important things ongoing at the Äänekoski ecosystem. And we are all the time calling for new partnerships and really inviting other companies to join us into making the operations even more effective. then I have to share this example because I'm a chemist by my background, though for the past 10 or more years I've been working on circular economy and bioeconomy on a general level. But this is a real good example of circular chemistry because during the pulping process, there are some odorous gases, mainly SO2, which are formed. And in this new ecosystem, the odorous gases, which are emissions, they are not only captured, but they are utilized in making sulfuric acid. And in this one, we have Valmet as our partner. So Valmet has designed an integrated production of sulfuric acid, which uses these emissions as one of their raw material. And then, of course, we get several environmental benefits from this one. Reduced emissions of sulfur compounds to water, then avoided emissions due to avoided manufacture of virgin sulfuric acid, and then avoided emissions of all the transport, because now the ecosystem is self-sufficient in terms of sulfuric acid. So it's a really nice example of circular chemistry. And then to end with Metsä Wood, not only like, of course, wood construction is sustainable per se because it stores the carbon for a long time, but now they have some really nice case examples of already like existing examples together again with partners that they have been using these wooden elements in building demountable houses. So it's a bit like Lego-like building. So you can build the house and then when needed, it can be demounted and built elsewhere. So as a circular example, of course, this one extends the lifetime of the building or construction elements even more. And then another similar example from Finland, a modular school that is built with Metsä Wood wooden panels. And this one also is demountable. So then if needed, it can be demounted and built elsewhere and the lifetime of the wood extended even more. And just to end with, we really want to improve our operations all the time. And we have set us these sustainability targets, which we monitor constantly and really want to improve and become more sustainable like continuously and really contribute to making a more circular and sustainable future. Thank you. I'll save the next slides for the other questions.
Vallahi çok teşekkür ederiz.
Thank you, Mrs. Maya. Your valuable information was really great. I'd like to thank you as well for what you contribute to the earth and for our planet. It's really important. I am really excited to be seeing the other pages of the slides. I'd like to give the word to the Mayju. As for the BO2X Fortum, for bioeconomical and less of work about the circular economy and bioenergy, for bioeconomy and circular economy. Can you talk about the activities you have done as Fortum and what are your thoughts or ideas about the world?
Yeah, of course. Thank you and greetings from Helsinki, from Finland. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me to speak here. It's really nice to participate. I also have slides, so I could share my screen. Okay, I think you guys can see it now. So yeah, I can tell you about Fortum as an energy company, and then I can talk about our growth program Bio2X. So first of all, as said, I'm Maiju, and I represent the energy company Fortum, and I'm working as technology expert in our growth program Bio2X. But first about Fortum as a company. So Fortum is an energy company, and our traditional business is heat and power production. Our core operations cover hydro and nuclear power production, combined heat and power, and also circular economy activities. We also develop different energy-related products and expert services for businesses and also for consumers. Currently, we are the third largest power producer and the largest electricity retailer in the Nordic countries. Globally, we are one of the leading heat producers, and as 2/3 of Fortum's power production is hydro and nuclear based, we are also one of the lowest emitting generators in Europe, which we are very proud of. And we are a global company, even though we are based in Finland. We are operating in the Nordic countries, in the Baltics, in Russia, and also in India. And a few years back, we acquired a German energy company called Uniper. And because of that transaction, we are now active in Central Europe too. But nowadays, we are anyway becoming more and more a circular economy focused company and so-called green technology provider. We have set up 2 phases to reduce our global CO2 emissions. In this first phase of ours, green energy production has a significant role, as we are an energy company, of course. We shift our energy production towards renewables, meaning mainly electricity production from solar and wind, and power production from hydro and nuclear. And as an electricity company, we of course believe that electrification of traffic and households can have a big positive impact on fighting the climate change. And the second phase of reducing CO2 emissions is about developing new technology concepts. Here we have initiatives related to, for example, hydrogen economy, CO2 capture, and sustainable materials. We have a recycling and waste management business that is in the heart of circular economy. Especially plastics and battery material recycling is very interesting to me at least. And we also have activities to utilize biomass for other purposes than just energy production. And about those activities, so I could tell you about our growth program Bio2X. That is a good example of our circular economy activities. So in Bio2X, we are developing new business in the field of biorefining. Our business model is to build biorefineries that utilize agricultural residues, mainly straw, as raw material. We fractionate this biomass into its main components and valorize the biofractions further, either by ourselves or with partners. However, the idea is that one can produce new sustainable and value-added materials and chemicals from agricultural biomass that is often considered as a waste. So what we do, we utilize a novel technology to fractionate lignocellulose into its main components, and those are cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. We are developing this fractionation technology with a partner company called Chempolis. The chemistry is based on, the chemistry is based on organic acids that can dissolve lignin and hemicellulose from the cellulose fraction. As products, we get cellulose pulp, hemicellulose, and lignin. These fractions can be used as raw materials for many different industrial value chains. As an example of a cellulose value chain, our straw pulp can be used for sustainable textile fiber production or for example, paper production. Hemicelluloses can be converted to furfural, which is an important component in the chemical industry. Lignin, on the other hand, can be used, for example, as functional filler in resins, plasticizers, and thermoplastics. And the technology provider Chempolis has a demonstration plant in northern Finland. We are using that mill to optimize and develop our fractionation process and to produce samples for application development. We are also building our first biorefinery in India that utilizes the same core technology, but however, the raw material there is bamboo and the main product is bioethanol. Then we are engineering our first European commercial biorefinery. It will most likely be built in Central Europe, and it will utilize mainly wheat straw as raw material. We have not received an investment decision for this yet, but we are working for it. And you can see the timeline here in the slide for this European mill. The production ramp up is planned to be in the end of year 27, and commercial operations should start in the next year after that. So this Bio2X program is just one example of the circular economy activities of what we have. And I think that's all from my side now. Thanks a lot.
Biz çok teşekkür ederiz.
We like thank you too. And we like thank Fortum for what they bring and contribute to the world. As for Fortum and Mesa, they do really valuable work for circular economy, for climate, for the future of world. They have a really important role to play. I am really happy to listen and hear and learn from you. And of course, this circular economy and green technology is a really costly works, and a finance support is really important on that part. With that, I'd like to go to Mrs. Esra about this. Yes, like Fortum and Mesa, big companies are working on this. And big companies has incentive and financial support on that part. As a person that wants to start being a startup on that part, or small businesses, to give them help with the financial support, how can they get help? As you know, with the crypto economy is really on coming up, this metaverse and the gaming industry, or from the retail, the crypto economy is becoming more and more integrated for incentives on that part for the youngsters. With the crypto economy, with technology, can we create a connection? Or that economy can be brought there. If it's give contribution, you give contribution, you will get a crypto, something like that can be happen. It's like just like the gaming industry. For green technology finance, what can you say about it? I'd like to ask a recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Can. I'd like to thank all of the other speakers, and I'm really learning a lot. Thank with the help of them. It's really amazing work they are doing. It's really giving hope to me. It's a really great question you have asked. I am just going to cumulative all the questions, and I will add the other speakers' information. What is more hopeful is that this awareness is important. Another thing is that in the world, there's a really enough capital for all of us. more about where are we going to find the capital. More thing is about for the startups or projects, for big establishments. They have to join in a common area. This is, comes with traceability. The world needs more traceability. When we can take just old way credits, but when we are talking about the finance, the things we always talk about is the old tradition ways, and we just put green on it, and you can just say that it's a green credit, it's the green things, green business, green startup, but it is not simple as that. In the background of it, this kind of events, this kind of awareness seminars, we have to share it and make it more common for the public, and we have to make every individual in that society should understand what we are trying to say, because this kind of awareness can be more spread more quickly. We have dates 2030, 2050. Peoples are really confused where to look, what to do. The United Nations say that the sustainable development for 2030 goals. Of course, there is the emission goals for 2050 for Europe, green action. There's lots of projects like this, and of course, all of this as a figure, as a framework, and they when it become more clear, to become more green, as Meta and Fortum examples are really important on that part, to create a green startup. What do we understand from a green business? What our goals should be? What should we be doing today? How the timing should be done? This is really important examples. And with that, after this, why I want to bring up to the agenda, because if you are taking a looking for a financial fund, we have to talk about what we are going to do. This must be the first priority, and it has to be some bylaws or regulations, just like the European Green Action is really important for us. We do lots of export to the Europe, and mostly 50% of our exports goes to Europe. These standards and these approaches, we have to listen to them and understand them, because everything in our lives will be developed with a parallel to this. With this green action, becoming a part of it, being as a startupper or a technological producer or manufacturer, or which shareholder you are or partner, you have to understand that you need to be a part of it. When you take a look at this, the finance part is really easy on the talk about this. With the lots of project we have seen, the investors also see this kind of projects. Of course, the banks also see this kind of projects, but they can actually calculate what are they on the correct path. If it is like it should be, everything should be planned from start to finish, really truly. I created a product, and I think that it is a sustainable, and it is not enough. You have to give a background, and you have a solid foundation. You have to work very hard and study really hard on that part. And to be more fastly in the globalization, it's a really great opportunity. With this, we, our brands, our companies, they have to go for the foreign markets. This is a really great opportunity. And of course, as I always talked about, maybe pandemic bring us to be more collective and more become more team workable, to more think about the cooperations. We left out the individualism morely, like I open this company, I do the sales like from there. Just like the Finland, is doing. We want to see the cooperations between Finland and Turkey. Maybe we can have contribution. Maybe we can get help with the technology they developed, or maybe they can have help from the markets we have created. Most important thing is the cooperation, and with that, finding a finance fund is really easy after that. Of course, we can talk about details later. You should say something about crypto. Yes, crypto is really popular at the moment, even the last years. Our subject is more about sustainable green economy and climate change is about that. I want to take attention to that too. For cryptos, has a different exit point. It is different from central systems. With people can do trades between themselves. Maybe they can create smart agreement with themselves. More about to make it more easier for the smart business life more easier. Also, it gives more of security and creates a blockchain infrastructure. Of course, as a control center, you take it out, you can see that we talk about miners, the persons we don't see, but lots of people are currently a part of this work to have security on that part. So it creates lots of energy consumption in the all over the world. It creates lots of heating and increasing temperature with the incoming times, with the new technologies. The beauty of technology is because of this. When we are finding new things and developing it, but with a very fast pace, the damages you have done, it creates that rupture, and we always try to do a first aid or do a self-surgery on self. The crypto has a problem like this. When we take a look at the projects, we always talk about this. How it's going to work in the long term. It's really great news with new ways. They have found alternative technologies to reduce the heating and increase in temperature. It is really happy to think. And of course, Mr. John, the problem is that none of this at most is not something that we can see the results at the current station. It is more about the future projects. For us in this kind of status, we have lots of work to do for the investment place. There's a capital, yes, but the usage of this capital is really important, and going for the correct project and is really important, and creating a sustainable solution is really important. As we have seen, as Mrs. Özge and Mrs. Maya and two Mayas are persons that specialists on their own subject, persons that we can discuss together with lots of shareholders. We have to work together with them. With it, with the most developing technologies and developing regulations, we have to follow up and track them. We have to get correct additions. And most important thing is this, becoming more open to the public and being on the follow-up and trackability is important. We can talk about it later, of course. Thank you. You really talk about everything really greatly, and you summarized it very well. And there's always a minus side of it too. And Mrs. Özge wants to have a word and wants to add something on the subject. Mrs. Özge, please start.
Yes. So thank you, Joanne, and thank you, everyone. Like, it's great to hear all of those, and then it's great to have the opinion of an investor as well, who is very active in the field. So I have a question to, in terms of product design, right? I grew up in a paper factory, now, which is closed after a certain amount of time. And so I'm very much familiar with the paper-based products and such. So as far as I understand, the way I also teach product design. So my point is, I mean, we cannot expect change based on people's good hearts. I mean, I am really appreciating millennials, Gen Z. It is great. I think these kids are really pushing the change and such. But as companies, how do you respond to that? As far as I see, you will have less and less paper-based products, and you will actually translate your direction more on the biofuels. Expectations, so to speak. How do you handle this?
Yeah. Can I answer? Yeah. So actually, I can again use my slides. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the very interesting comments and presentations so far. Very, very interesting discussion. I'll share my screen. So in terms of products, probably you can see. Wait a minute, I'll just try to get it to. Yeah. So if you think, for example, of our products, Metsä Group's products, so as explained, we have these 5 business areas. So for example, we have paperboard, still is a very, very important product for Metsä Board, which is one of our business areas. But then in addition to these traditional products, we have several new ones. I can show you some examples. So for example, our company, we don't produce biofuels at all. We produce some renewable electricity from the side streams. But then again, we try to use as much of the wood as possible in material use, and then just the side streams for energy. And concerning then also of the traditional products, like for example, these wood products, we try to make them even more sustainable and circular. For example, these demountable house examples. Then, for example, concerning paperboard, if that's what you know, it is very interesting to hear that you have grown in a, well, not in a factory, but close to a factory. I'll show one example. What is really important to us is that, of course, with some paperboard products, we can replace fossil products made from fossil raw materials. For example, if you think that currently the mass of all plastics is about double the mass of all animals on Earth. So certainly we have the climate change challenge or emergency, and then we also have a challenge of plastics waste. And we think that, for example, paperboard is one solution to that one. And then paperboard is recyclable, so it can be recycled several times. And then what is important for us is also lightweightening. Here's an example, for example, Metsä Board. They are very specialized in using as little material as possible to make the paperboard function to be fulfilled. And this small calculation example, for example, shows quite nicely. So, for example, regarding pharma boxes, if you are able to reduce the weight of one pharma box per 1%, you actually get huge amount of boxes kind of out of nothing. So with all our products, even the traditional ones, we try to be more and more sustainable in making them and then in using them. So use as little raw materials as possible, less emissions, and then make all products recyclable. So paperboard we believe that paperboard is one part of the solution in today's sustainable future. Then of the new products, I can show you some examples. Here I was talking about investments and innovations. They are really important for Metsä Group in making the world more sustainable and in developing our business. Here you can see some of our newest investments in Finland and in Sweden. And then on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a project in which Metsä Spring is involved in. And Metsä Spring is our innovation company. It has two functions. It invests in small startups. For example, here you can see Vuodio. Vuodio is a startup that uses one of our side stream, kind of a sawdust, in making ceramics. Here you can see, and we all know that ceramics, when you produce ceramics, for example, for bathroom furniture, it's very energy efficient. But then when you make it using wood materials and some other materials as well, it's a composite, you can make these sustainable bathroom furniture. So Vuodio is kind of in our investment portfolio and a new product. Then we have other products here as well. You can see Innomost, which is a startup as well, in which Metsä Spring has invested in. And that one produces bioactive products from birch bark. And they already have some products on the market as well as Vuodio. You can already buy these bathroom furniture that contain our side streams. Then we have also invested in Montinutra, which is using some of the side stream sawdust as well, and they are extracting bioactive products, even that certain of them could have medical use. And then regarding their own development project, Metsä Spring has or is constructing, again together with a partner, together with Valmet, they are building a demo plant that would produce 3D packaging materials directly from the wet pulp. So those materials, you can mold them in the shape like plastics, but then they are like totally biodegradable and bio-based. So that's an ongoing project. And then another ongoing project is that together with a Japanese company, Itochu, Metsä Spring has already an ongoing demo plant to use fresh and wet pulp into making sustainable textiles. And I can show you some of these clothes are already in test use in Japan. So it's really using the pulp in a very sustainable way without harmful chemicals to produce textiles. And this is an ongoing development project as well. Unfortunately, today I don't have clothes made of kura, but probably if next year or year after that, I could also wear some test materials while presenting. So that would be nice. But just to sum up, so both some of the traditional products are important, like paperboard, tissue papers, and wooden building materials. But then we also have a lot of development regarding new products. And we think that sometimes, especially I've been thinking lately, that when we think of the value of using materials and think of sustainable production and sustainable consumption, I think we should also more and more think like what things are the like want against needs. For example, some of the tissue papers, you might say that, oh, well, exactly. You only use them once and that's that. But then again, what would be life without tissue papers? So I think it would be very, very important to include in the sustainability discussion also the aspect of need versus wants. Yeah, but thank you for a very interesting questions. I'll stop now and let other people speak as well. Thank you.
Sanırım bir sorusu daha olacak ya da eklemesi
I
olacak.
believe Miss Özge has another question.
No,
she had opened her mic.
I was saying thank you exactly.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, do you see these our innovation project? Do you see them promising regarding your background?
I do actually, and at the same time, like you made a very good point, saying like I think there is a very important difference between want and need, right? Yeah. So I think we should really simplify our lives if we want to continue to live in this place called Earth, right? So I mean, we really have to look at our consumption culture, and at the same time, yes. Some things are very convenient, but then can we change our user habits? And then user habits, again, do not change because of good hearts. They change because of utility. And it is really up to the designers in your own companies to coach people this new way of life is more user-friendly. They wouldn't let go of their current habits, as far as I have been reading and studying the subject. So yes, they're very promising. And then I think once we prove them, they are also economically viable, I think the economy will shift by itself rather than this incentives and then such other kinds of pushes. Because I think, again, the economy has to win in the end, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you. Yeah, very nice to hear that you see them as promising. And I totally agree with you that I think it's actually industry's responsibility to offer consumers more sustainable solutions and as you say, enable the more sustainable life. It's really, I think it's business responsibility.
I agree. And at the same time, there is this thing, right? If you ask this to a CEO 20 years ago, like, okay, your product is, let's say, this plastic. And then if you tell him that, your product is polluting the environment, he will probably tell you, oh, it's not my product. It is the consumer who is putting it into the forest, for instance. So or throwing it out. But now the design has to encounter for what is happening after the consumer leaves this someplace, right? So now you have to think about the entire cycle of the lifetime. So now you cannot say that, oh, I don't care if it is in trash or what else, it is not my responsibility. As industry, you have to own that responsibility. And it is great that you are owning it in your own company. So perfect, thank you.
Yeah, we are trying to develop our functions all the time, but I think it's a very, very interesting area, like totally. And then also I think in a circular economy, one of the main exciting things is that you meet a lot of new people and partners, like for example, this discussion as well. So I think that's really one of the great things in building a more circular society.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Çok önemli aslında tartışma oldu.
That was a very valuable discussion, and thank you both for your contribution. And from different perspectives, we've seen approaches, and automatically, as you said, the preference of those products rely on the consumer's side, and economy always wins. I wish to also continue briefly, because with the Green Agreement, we've seen Turkey also take a role in terms of ceramics and technologies, and we've touched upon technological details, and we wish to hear more about it, of course, down the road. And in terms of detailed information with the model and the green technology, the green solution model you developed, perhaps we can go towards a different point from there on.
Civan, was this a question?
Evet. Özellikle biraz önce bahsetmiş olduğunuz
Yes, especially in regards to the structure you mentioned beforehand, with the details and.
Okay, so I can give a couple of examples, considering that, like, we have an investor on board who I'm sure listening to many different technologies daily, and we already have two very innovative companies. So what I do as research is we have the ceramic products, right? And you are mostly familiar with clay, I believe, right? We played with it when we were children. So the advanced ceramics market is more than a $10 billion market. And then the idea is the same, like, you shape the ceramic product and then you sinter it, meaning that you put it into a high temperature oven. Right? So whenever you are producing something like that, this is easy, you mold it. But if you are doing very intricate structures, complex shapes and such, you have to really work on the very hardened surface. You need to shape this surface, so to speak. And then what happens is it breaks most of the time, 15 to 35%. That is why I'm saying most of the time. It is 35% losses for an industry is a huge amount. And then you also lose the entire energy you spend on this product because you have fired it at 1400s. So what I am trying to do is to shape ceramics once they are soft. So in order to do that, I mean, I won't get into the details of the science or the innovation part here, but what I am trying to say is we really have to look at each sector individually, and industry and academia or the other types of innovators should come together to concoct alternatives. Like otherwise, like you stuck with, I mean, you have to produce ceramics. They have applications and they have amazing properties, you know, thermal resistance, chemical resistance. They're hard, they're used in semiconductors. We start talking about 5G. They also have very important applications over there. So we will continue to do the ceramics, but then it is up to us to devise more effective schemes on how to handle those processes. So that is also my invite to industry or like other academics and such. It is our duty as a citizen of this world, the innovators and such, to really parse those questions and try to find collective answers. So we really have to look at the technological bits one by one, and anything inefficient, anything producing more waste than it should be, then we should come up with alternatives. And seriously, it is a huge snowball type of movement that I would like to envision and really look at it. Like if we don't need to spend it, like, you know, we are all smart, we are all like, you know, we are all hardworking. And I think like many sectors could enjoy this kind of a transformation. So as far as I see, they what they have done in Finland in terms of like, you know, getting the chemicals, even valorizing the chemical, which is actually a waste, and at the same time, like cutting down the cost, it should be done in every sector very systematically, especially Turkey with the Green Deal and such. We have signed a very hard conditions compared to what is going on in Turkey right now. So I think the Turkish industry is being challenged. I don't know if they are aware that they are being challenged yet, but it is coming. And then like, you know, Europe is our largest market, and we don't know if we will be able to sell to Europe in a short amount of time. So like, you know, if I were to be a big company, I will be reading everything in very fine detail and take actions against it actually.
Can I comment shortly? Yeah. So just a small comment. I totally agree with you. And I think that when thinking of circular economy, the whole value chain is becoming more and more important. So all the pieces of the value chain are becoming more important. So if you supply for any European international value chains, even tiny little parts, your product or service has to be sustainable. Otherwise, I think in the near future, it will be very, very difficult for you to continue your business.
And it will be illegal. You wouldn't be able to sell with certain amount of packaging. If you have, for instance, more than a certain amount of ink in your packaging, you won't be able to sell it to Europe.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, you know, these small things, they really have to change the design at the moment. So, and I am also not aware, I haven't been following this very closely, to my bad. But then this industry, I am not sure they are aware what Turkey has signed. Thank you.
Evet. Herkes küçükten büyüğe
From big to small, as you can see, everyone is thinking about the steps about the green change and the green resolution with works conducted in their own respective areas. And perhaps, as you said, even the ink becomes a problem at time. And also, I myself am an industrialist. So in terms of the Green Deal, I also have to evaluate and look through things clearly and closely. So it creates its own enlarged economy with demand and supply changing conditions, but also ratios, which is really important to point out. So therefore, thank you for your contributions and messages with interruptions and questions in between.
O yüzden katkılarınız için çok teşekkürler. Ben Mayu Hanım'a aslında dönmek istiyorum.
I want to return to Mrs. Mayu, especially for bioeconomy part and for bio raw materials, the subject on that department, to getting to the end user. It's a really long process, and for Fortum, with the R&D studies they are currently conducting, this bioproducts manufacturing gives lots of contributions. How are you making this a real reality? Yeah, and talk about your R&D research and development studies. How did you make it confront? Because you have a really great and successful company on that part. And I think lots of persons and participants here wondering how are you doing this more efficiently?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We do have a extensive research and development program, and I could actually present it to you now with a couple of slides. So I will again share my screen. This is something that that Maija was already touching actually a bit, because we are doing this together with Metsä Group. So our R&D program is called Expand Fiber. So it is it is an R&D program and collaboration between two companies, Metsä Group and Fortum. And well, Maija already presented Metsä, so no need to do that again. But so this Expand Fiber is an R&D collaboration program between us, and it is also an ecosystem that we have created. This is a 4-year-long program, and we started it in summer 2020. So it's almost two years old now. This is a program that has received public funding from a Finnish financing body, Business Finland. And they are financing us with 50 million euros. The idea here in Expand Fiber is to carry out and facilitate R&D work to refine both agricultural residues and wood-based biomasses into value-added sustainable products. And even though we operate in an R&D field, we are strongly aiming to commercialize these new bioproducts so that they can replace their fossil-based counterparts. So this is more like applied research and development, what we do. We aim to impact within these theme areas that you can see in the middle of this slide. We are spearheading in textiles and biocomposites, as they are of interest for both of the companies, for Fortum and Metsä. And the other teams are packaging, lignin products, hemicellulose valorization, straw sourcing and fractionation, and other fiber products. So we are basically combining our R&D activities with Metsä here, but we are carrying out our activities separately. But we also have some collaboration projects regarding textiles and biocomposites, which I think is super cool. And that kind of collaboration between industrial companies is needed. And as said, in addition to our own R&D programs, this financing body Business Finland has given us a mandate to create an ecosystem around these specific theme areas of ours. And the idea here is that big companies like Metsä and Fortum can act as leading companies and set up the guidelines for the development work within specific important themes like biomass refining and valorization in our case. We are expected to gather all kinds of organizations together to network and to build new value chains. We believe that active discussion and collaboration between companies from different industries and from different kinds of value chains is needed in order to get these new bioproducts to the market. Nobody can do it by themselves. First of all, one needs a wide variety of competencies to carry out development work. And secondly, these value chains from biomass raw materials to consumer products are very long, and there still are gaps in those value chains. So basically we need to identify and find new players to join us. And our ecosystem consists of both member companies and project members, as you can see in this slide. We have an open door policy when it comes to new members, and we welcome new companies and projects to join us all the time. What should be common to all of our members is a shared vision and mission to facilitate the commercialization of these bio-based products. We also expect that our members are somehow working within the same themes as we are, just to make sure that we are on the same boat, so to say. And this ecosystem is foremostly a platform to network and to pitch your ideas and to find new partners. Everything we do is based on voluntary information sharing here, and there is no participation fee. We believe that by having active discussion between parties from all over the value chains, we can increase the knowledge-based competitiveness of all the members. And all of the actual development work where new IPR is created, for example, will be carried out in those projects of ours or as one-to-one collaboration between ecosystem members. Yeah, and we have also set up a vision and mission for our ecosystem. The vision is very holistic. We see that new bioproducts contribute significantly to the reduction of our environmental impacts. Thus, the demand for this kind of new sustainable bioproducts will increase in the future. And our mission is simply to meet this growing demand by developing new exciting and cool materials and new technologies and new business concepts. And we expect to share this mission with all the ecosystem members. And our long-term goals are to provide markets with more sustainable products and to bring new business ideas and revenue to our ecosystem partners. We also aim to increase investments into the biomass-based value chains. And here you can see some snapshots about what we are actually doing under this Expand Fiber program. To start from left with Fortum's examples. So as I already told you, we are developing a new kind of technology to fractionate straw biomass. And we are doing that with the partner company Chempolis, and we are operating a demo facility in Finland. And we are building our first biorefinery in India and designing the second one to be built in Europe. And Fortum is also carrying out a lot of application work for lignin, hemicellulose, and cellulose fractions. And as an example, we are developing our straw pulp to be used in textiles, and lignin can be used as a functional filler in materials. And from hemicellulose, one can produce new sustainable materials for the chemical industry. And Metsä Group also have a lot of development activities. Actually, I think Maija already mentioned all of these, but under this Expand Fiber program, Metsä is developing their textile fiber concept and technology, their 3D wood-based packaging product and technology to produce that. And then they also have some paperboard and packaging products development ongoing. So a lot of innovation work is happening between us. And back to the ecosystem. So here you can see our ecosystem members, and we are quite a big group already, almost 80 companies. And all of the members are operating in the field of bioproducts some way or the other. Many are producing or using sustainable bioproducts already now, whereas some of the members are interested in learning more about them for their future businesses. And we have different companies from all over the value chains. As this is an R&D ecosystem, we have good representation of the academia and research organizations here. We also have plenty of startups with exciting technologies and also bigger industrial companies. And then we also have service providers and investors involved. And most of the companies come from Finland, but we are very happy to have international companies too. And well, this is my final slide. I'm using this opportunity to advertise this ecosystem in case some of you would like to join us. So this one is telling you why you should join the ecosystem. So what is the actual value proposition and benefits for you as a member? So as said, this is mainly a networking and collaboration platform. You can find new partners for your R&D projects. You can pitch your ideas and you can disseminate your work if you are a project. And as a foreign company, this is especially a window to a Finnish bioeconomy sector and Finnish value chains and Finnish R&D landscape. So if you want to find the Finnish partners, this is a very good platform for you. Also, if you are planning to start your R&D or business activities in Finland, this is a great ecosystem to network for that. And as said, this is based on voluntary information sharing. There's no financial requirements and there's no annual fee or anything. So this is really to find new partners, to facilitate your R&D activities and to create new business initiatives for future revenues. And what we actually do as an ecosystem, we organize events with different teams in which we facilitate discussion and give the stage to our members to present. We encourage our members to share information about their research needs and offerings to others. We share this information and other relevant bioindustry news via our newsletter and web pages. Then we also act as matchmakers so that our members can connect with each other, and we also support new project preparations and help projects find relevant participants. On top of that, we are having active discussion with other Finnish ecosystems in the same field, and we aim to support each other. So by being a member, you will get the front row seat to see what is happening in this R&D field in the Finnish bioeconomy. So in case you think that this resonates with your company mission and activities, you can check our web pages and learn more and contact us if you want to join us. Thank you.
Harika bir ortaklık, harika bir
It's a
program.
great partnership. It's a great ecosystem. And we like, as the Habitat Collective, we like to join you too. It's a really great ecosystem you are creating together. We are really happy to hear about it. I like to return back to Mrs. Esra because herself is a she is in the center of the investment world. Of course, mostly for the investment and startup, for the circular economy, and for this green technologies and the sustainability of the world. How much is in the agenda and in the trend. We are working with lots of business people. What you say about and you validate about the business life adaptation for this green economy and circular economy. Yes, thank you. Really, right now, when you take a look up the for entrepreneurship side, you persons that use their ideas in the pandemic process, they have seen that this kind of things, this environmental, social, and governmental areas, they have to be more focused on that part. Entrepreneurship, if it's not has in its scope, as much as you get support, it won't have any successful businesses because investor it is not looking at the today's problem. It's mostly looking at the future's problem, and they want to invest on the future's problem. Mostly about the entrepreneurships for the early stages, social and the persons that called social entrepreneurs, a place a different definition. Most of the entrepreneurs critique a social awareness and with their goals about it. It's going to be integrated and they have to put it in their own plans in the all over the world, all startups and entrepreneurships. I can say it easily. The developing and underdeveloped regions, they are mostly aware of this morely. These kind of disadvantages where places you live, they're always face to face with that. And for that, as there are other speakers before me, I'd like to give some contribution to them on that part. This transition change, when we take a look at this, the most consumer part of transition is really important. They have to use these services and the products that the transition stages is really important. As for where Turkey is in the this inflation is so high in Turkey, the economical hardships in this kind of communities. When you're intra market, you see great things like more sustainable, the more green products, the more organic, but their prices nearly is more than double of it. Even if I want it in my heart, I can invest on this because consumer doesn't want to pay that much. And it comes to a dead end like this. I believe that in Turkey, there will be a really successful and a very and the company, there's lots of entrepreneurs can use technology very greatly. And when we talk about this region, every developing countries and mostly in the Arabic countries, and in there's capital there and lots of great works come out from there too. But the subject is this: when we develop this kind of product, we can't find a place, as Mr. Özge said, in the market, and we have to put more effort to sell it and put it on the market. Of course, and for your question, there's awareness in the entrepreneur side, there's a bravery, there's technology and courage, but they mostly has goals for the Western markets because for for power of buying and everything else. They are mostly on that subject. With that, what happens? We manufacture something here and we sell it outside. But how we can create a balance? That's the important thing. We can talk about in a separate manner because when something is manufactured and if you sell it to if you manufacture and sell it to western side, then we take a look at the climate change. The climate change bombarded our lives. We can't stop it. There's nothing much else to talk about it. As we see in the summer, there was lots of forest fires, lots of fires has happened, and most affected part is the person in when we take a look country, the most less opportunity of it, the companies, countries with the less opportunity are most affected on that part with the G7 PQ has been happened, creating with the team of creating a better world, to, for giving them a fund on and finance fund on the part of having help with that kind of having up the project. Most important thing is to use those financial efforts and aids in the correct ways. The societies that are underdeveloped, this kind of hardships of economy, this when I am to take a look at only for the financial way, it creates a little big problem. We need to handle this job with us. We need to use correct capital, correct investor, and as we have seen here from Fortem and Formote, they have really great ecosystem. As for me, and I will talk about the entrepreneurs who can get benefit from it. It is really important. Even if the entrepreneur works as best, because they have to know that in this world, the entrepreneur has to know this kind of things. But what are the options we have? We mostly talk about the Western countries. Most question mark is the usage of the finance aids. It is the most thing we have seen. Of course, there's some recommendations and questions from our participants. And right now, there's a question about that. The question is that for the circle, how can we validate the parameters for the circular economies and use how we can see the work models you are preparing or conducting or developing on the part of circular economy and sustainable. I talk about this in our future. What can be our guide is green action and of course the Europe taxonomization. And you take a look at the local ways. It is talking about what should happen, where should we go. These are hints that help us, but entrepreneurs can't do themselves about this. They need to be great business person or a great technology person, but they can't just be specialist on every subject, as Maya said. Being more aware is really important. How another similar branch of work, how do they take the measurements, how do they conduct their work is really important to look at. When we talk about the market here, when we talk about the change and transition here, the things that we shouldn't have forget that they're pioneers. They're the persons that do the first step, taking the first step. The companies that started this change. Like let's see, this 2 trillions or billions of investments are being done. There's a side like that, and the other side is that when we look at the world economics, nearly 90% shape of it is the middle and small businesses. almost shape the world economy. And I think the problem is that they have to, because of they have limited resources, they have to be, they need help, and universities having more active role on this part is really important, and creating more fasting programs. And we have lots of programs like that, and ways that we can create, and we have to follow up on the developments by the universities has done, and we have to give utmost importance on that part. There's also digitalization platforms in the time where we said that we will help with lots of companies for the sustainability road and for the becoming more digitalized. But is it enough? I don't think it is enough just doing that. As I said, this is a process. There's lots of shareholders or sharers, as we can say. As a last, I can say it like this. For me, the persons that for the active and effective recycling or for circular economy, the big companies should create their own funds. It could be a automation sector or health sector or industries for their own manufacturing. I think they have to supply the side sectors that help them to create their own product. This is only a place, a future that we can reach together with our collaboration. We have to leave no one behind, and we have to keep them with our own speed, and we have to protect them, and it is really important in this process. And I hope that it was a great answer for our viewer. There's 3 questions to Maya. I like to ask all questions simultaneously. The first question is that, as we for forests, when you talk about what are you meaning about the ownership of forests, what are the shareholders or the partners on that part? The villagers on the rural areas or persons that living there, are you meaning them? Or are you talking about a more cooperative side? Second question is that for when you're manufacturing sustainable products, you talk about your raw materials are also sustainable. When we look at the cumulative, when we talk about the manufacturing methods, what kind of sustainability are you talking about? From the manufacturing to the sector, to market, what kind of sustainability can be affected? And the third question is that for circular design and usage of circular different products, they started, how do they give investment or support for the bioplastic materials? What do you think about the Europeans' green transition? This was 3 questions. If you can cumulative them, all of them, we would like it. Mrs. Maya?
Yes, sure.
Because our time is short.
Yes, I just...
If you can answer it quickly, it will be great.
Yeah, I'll try to summarize. Thank you. Very interesting discussions, and it would be lovely to have more time in discussion. If you want to contact me later on, please send me email or contact me in LinkedIn or Twitter. But anyway, like most of the forest in Finland is owned by families. Of course, there are some cities and the state owns part of it. But in Finland, we have a lot of just ordinary people, families, people in countryside, also in cities who own forests. So that's not very typical, but in Finland and in Sweden as well, it's like that. Then regarding the sustainability, it's very important to take into account the whole life cycle of the product, starting from the raw material, then what sustainability means in the process side. It means taking into account the synergies, being very resource effective, minimizing the emissions, And then also designing the products in a way that they can be either recycled or extending their lifetime. Like, for example, in the wooden building examples I showed, you can extend the life cycle of the wooden elements if you do this demountable construction. So that's in process, and we already have some examples on the market. And partnership is very important, as Maiju showed in her slides. We also have in Äänekoski in the bioproduct mill site in the ecosystem, there's actually a place for paperboard users, our customers, to come and collaborate with the R&D people and designers of Metsä Board. So they can together design the whole packaging solutions with very fancy equipments, like they can do digital twins, and then they can also do LCA calculations already on the solutions that they are developing. So really an example of collaboration. It's a collaboration hub. And then regarding bioplastics, we see that if you think of a sustainable future, we cannot decarbonize the material sector. We can decarbonize the energy sector probably someday, but we cannot decarbonize the material sector. Otherwise, there would be no life on Earth. Or if you think of the carbon atom, it's present everywhere. But we can use carbon in a more sustainable way. So it's very, very important to minimize the use of virgin fossil carbon in materials, chemicals, everywhere. And then instead use more sustainable sources of carbon, like renewable carbon, which is sourced from sustainably grown biomass, and then recycled fossil carbon and CO2-based carbon. So bioplastics also, they can be an example of sustainable use of carbon if the biosource comes from sustainably sourced biomasses. So very shortly, thank you.
Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you. It was really inspiring and very great answers. I think our participants, as for myself, I learned a lot of things, learned a lot of things. As for the circular economy and the relationship between the technology is really important, and we take a look at the part of the finance, and we take a look at the business life's approach on it, and we seen the examples of the green technologies. It's a really great session. I'd like to thank you for all of your contributions. Working with you was really happy for me, making really proud for me. I hope that in another platform, in another panel, we can come together again and all share more intense and more detailed ways. Thank you for your contribution and joining.
Sayın Sözkesen,
The esteemed Sözkesen,
Sayın
Tinen,
Yakalyo,
and Mr. Kalyo. It was really a great session. Thank you for your great contributions.
Değerli katılımcılarımız, şimdi bir
Our dear participants, we will have a break. We will be here in 2 p.m. We'll talk about adaptation of technologies. We will be here.